Hey everybody, Dragon Movie Guy here with another movie review, and today we're continuing with my series, I Missed It, You Missed It, Let's Watch It. Today is Wednesday, so it is a You Missed It Wednesday, and the selection for today is one of my favorite movies of all time. Before we get started, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video, and be sure to hit the notification button so you know the very moment that I post any video to my channel. Also, be sure to click right up here. That is the complete playlist for all of my You Missed It Wednesday movie reviews. Also, be sure to click right up here. That is the complete playlist for all of my I Missed It, You Missed It, Let's Watch It movie reviews. The movie I'm talking about today for You Missed It Wednesday is a film that made $5 million. Yeah, $5 million, that's about it. When it came out in 1996. This is a film that has spawned so many different careers based off of the success of this film. Obviously, this film didn't have a huge success in the box office, but it became hugely popular on DVD and then Blu-ray, and it's one of those highly quotable films that even if you haven't seen this movie, you've heard people quote this movie nonstop. If you watch SportsCenter at all, you've heard people say, "It's not so much me as it is Roenick. He's good." Or if you talk to anybody that's ever been to a bar anywhere, you know what? Your money and you don't even know it. Of course, we're talking about the movie Swingers, starring Vince Vaughn and Jon Favreau, and written by Jon Favreau and directed by Doug Liman. Doug Liman is the guy who directed The Bourne Identity with Matt Damon. He directed Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And of course, most recently, he did Edge of Tomorrow or Live, Die, Repeat with Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt that they're working on a sequel on. So clearly, Doug Liman, a huge action director now. But before all of the CGI fights and the CGI explosions and the $100 million mega blockbuster action films, there was this little picture, Swingers, back in 1996. No CGI explosions, no big fight sequences, just a couple of guys talking about breakups, talking about relationships, going out in the town and exploring LA in the 90s when the retro 1940s jazz music revival was going through Los Angeles, and everyone liked swing dancing, hence the title Swingers. Vince Vaughn has become a major A-list actor. He was in The Breakup, he was in Wedding Crashers. Obviously, this film stars Jon Favreau as the main character. He plays Mike. He is an actor slash stand-up comedian, and he's going through a breakup. There's not a huge plot here. It's just from the beginning, middle, and end of this film. This is a film about Jon Favreau going through a breakup, and it's freaking awesome. Jon Favreau obviously has gone on to become a huge actor in his own right, but his biggest contribution has obviously been as a director. He was the guy who basically, with Robert Downey Jr., started the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He also did a little independent movie called Chef, about a chef who's coincidentally going through a breakup, just like he was in Swingers. Ron Livingston is in this cast. Patrick Van Horn is a man named Sue. Also, we can't forget the cover girl who was on the poster for Swingers, if I can get it to focus. Heather Graham is in this film for a little bit. Heather Graham plays one of the many love interests in this film. So Swingers is one of my favorite movies of all time. This is technically a You Missed It Wednesday selection, but even though I've seen this movie dozens of times over the years, it's a movie that I've missed the last year or two, and I have not sat down and watched Swingers in the past at least year plus, which for me, as a person who quotes from Swingers semi-religiously, is a really, really weird thing to say that I have not sat down to watch Swingers, at least beginning to end, in at least a year, maybe two. So let's go ahead and watch Swingers, and if you'd like to pick up a copy of Swingers, be sure to click on the description bar below and click on the link, and you can pick up your own copy of Swingers, and you help support my channel while filling out your video library. Without further ado, let's go ahead and put in Swingers, and let's watch Swingers and come back afterwards and talk about one of my favorite movies of all time for You Missed It Wednesday, Swingers. So I just finished rewatching Swingers for the first time in quite a while, And what's sort of interesting is when you go back and rewatch a movie that you've watched a dozen times, if not more, before, but you haven't watched in a while, is that you pick up a lot of things that you've never seen before from this movie that you've seen many times before. This is a film that at its heart is a very simple story with a very simple structure. But because it's so well conceived, it's so well executed, it's so well cast, it's so well acted, it's so well directed, and it's so well edited that it may be a simple story and a simple structure, but the details and the fine, granular strands of stories in this film give you something new every time you watch it. Even if you've watched it dozens of times like I have, this is a film that you catch something new every single time you watch it. And it sucks you in, and you're able to not just take the side of Mike at times, but you're also able to relate to the side of Trent, played by Vince Vaughn, also many times, depending on what you're going through at the time that you're watching the film. So the plot of this film is very simple. Mike, played by Jon Favreau, moved from New York to LA roughly 6 months ago to pursue his dream of becoming an actor and comedian. However, when he moved from New York to LA, his girlfriend broke up with him. And that's about the plot of the movie. So Mike is 6 months into recovering from being dumped by the love of his life, a girl he spent 6 years dating, and he's just sort of hit a wall. And this is a 3-act structure of film. In the first act, Mike is going through the absolute worst part of his breakup. The second act of the film involves him getting back out into the world, into the public, into the dating pool, and trying to get back out there and put himself out there and, who knows, maybe meet someone new. The third act of this film picks up after the inevitable crash and burn at the end of the second act of this film, because does anyone actually ever get back out into the dating pool cleanly after a breakup? So the third act of this film picks up a couple of days after the second act ends, and we actually see Mike starting to truly get back out there. Not just getting back out there for the sake of getting out there, but actually getting back out there. And that's where we actually meet Heather Graham. And Heather Graham gets third billing on this film, but she's only in it for the last 15 minutes of the film. Actually, she's really only in it for about 10 minutes of screen time. And what Heather Graham does with roughly 10 minutes of actual screen time is really amazing, especially because this is a film that is written and directed and starring guys about a man's emotional journey. The fact that she's actually able to bring all of that depth to this character is actually really amazing, because the whole point of her character is not to be some dream girl, which she's actually played before in License to Drive. She was the epitomized dream girl in that movie in the 80s. But she's actually supposed to be a realistic, real-life person that Mike, Jon Favreau, could actually potentially fall in love with at the end of this film. What she does in 10 minutes of screen time for a guy who's been suffering for an hour and a half is really, really amazing. The thing I caught this time around is actually the very moment that Jon Favreau goes up to Heather Graham in the bar for the very first time. They were actually shooting in a real bar with real people. So when the camera follows Jon Favreau up to meet Heather Graham, the guy that moves away so that he can actually walk up to Heather Graham actually turns around and looks directly into the camera. This is a guy that was sitting right next to Heather Graham and had no idea that they were actually truly filming a movie. Either that or else he was the world's worst extra ever. So if you've never seen Swingers before, I cannot recommend this movie enough. If you've ever gone through a really bad breakup, or you've ever had a friend go through a really bad breakup, watching this movie is sort of a good start for emotional healing. This is one of the few films that I know of that actually accurately reflects the kinds of emotions that men go through during a breakup. Usually in films, when a guy is going through a breakup, you just see him get really angry, get really drunk, they go to a strip club, they go do whatever. But it very rarely actually deals with guys talking about emotions, guys talking about feelings, and actually processing the grief that is the end of a relationship. And this is actually one of the few films that actually delves into that in great detail, in great specificity, because at some points in your life you feel like Mike, and at some points you feel like Trent. And this may be a film that's very specifically set with actors in LA in the mid-90s, but it's also a film that really applies to anyone who's ever gone through a breakup. I've been Dragon Movie Guy. Let me know in the comments section down below what you thought of Swingers. Have you seen Swingers before? Is Swingers one of your favorite movies? Or have you never seen Swingers before? Or have you just heard your boyfriend or your best friend or a really good friend quoting from this movie and you're like, where does that come from? Why does he keep quoting "You're so money" and you don't even know it? Why does he keep quoting, "It's not just me, it's Roenick, he's good"? Why does he keep quoting those things? Well, sit down and watch the movie. Sit down and watch Swingers. It's been our film this week for You Missed It Wednesday. I've been Dragon Movie Guy. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video. Be sure to hit the notification button, and of course, be sure to hit the playlist button up here. That is the I Missed It, You Missed It, Let's Watch It complete video series for all of my movie reviews. So, I've been Dragon Movie Guy. Like, share, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. I'll see you next time. See ya.